The House of Mystery presents Inside Writing, the radio show where authors discuss their writing process in all genres.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren, Mr. Michael Hawley.
How you doing, Al?
Well, I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, not bad. A little cold, but, Buffalo weather goes up and down. We had minus something, now it's 60. So it changes so much.
Depression, up and down like that. But, cold, you sure it's not COVID again. Hey, you're Mr. COVID. You get it a lot.
I had it so many times I can't have it again, I think.
COVID camps out in you. That's
true. Very true.
Spot. Yeah. Well, anyway, here we go. So now today we've got a writer with us, and looks like she's writing into some murderous sort of stuff. No, we'll find out here. Katelyn Marie Peterson, and her new book is Cold Sweat. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Nice speaking with you.
Katelyn, now this book. So what's a nice girl like you writing violent stuff like this for?
Well, it's got a lot of romance in it, which is more my speed, but I've always enjoyed reading romance and mystery, so that's why I wanted to combine the two. So it's kind of like it's a little equal.
So you like romance and killing. So you like killing the boyfriends off.
So you like true crime like us?
Yeah. I've been binge watching Criminal Minds, so what that will tell you.
Wow. This book. Okay, so now your main character is what? Isabel Kingston.
Yeah.
Now, how do you come up with a main character like that? What do you base that character on?
Honestly, I usually come up with an idea, and then from that point, I come up with the main character. So I knew right off the bat that I wanted to have a lot of romance, but also appeal to those who enjoy murder mysteries too. And I put a little of myself into the book. So right off the bat, Isabel Kingston worked for a magazine, something I was familiar with because I did do freelance pieces. So it was, I guess, a lot of her is also a lot of me.
Wow, that's interesting. When you're experiencing your character, when you're trying to write your character, I should say, do you see your character or feel your character, or how does that work for you?
Oh, I definitely. I mean, I try to give all of the characters as much detail as I can, like the way they look, the way they talk. And my best friend actually told me that Isabel did remind her a lot of me. Her sense of humor and the way that she was depicted in the book. She's very mild-mannered, but she isn't afraid to stick up for herself if she needs to. So a lot of that is, I think, my style.
Oh, so you go out there and beat up people?
No.
I've got to be careful. Do you sort of have a style that you want people to get about your writing or understand when they read your book?
I mean, For me, I've always enjoyed reading books that really help paint the picture, so I give as much detail. I really try to paint a good picture and almost make it like a movie in somebody's head. So I guess that's, I want to make it so that people understand exactly what's going on in the book and they're not questioning, like, wait a second, what does she mean here? Like, I want to make it clear, crisp, but entertaining. How
did you decide to get into writing, and what was it about writing and mystery and all the stuff that you actually started doing it?
Well, I've been writing ever since I was a kid. I mean, I used to have journals filled with creative stories. It was always a passion of mine. And as I got older, I grew to appreciate other forms of writing, which is how I ended up graduating from college with a degree in journalism. And I did write a lot of freelance pieces for local newspapers, but at the end of the day, I'm a creative writer. So I dove back into that. And in 2014, I started working on my first book, California Betrayal, and that was published in 2021 with TWB Press. And shortly after that, I began working on Cold Sweat.
So it's romance then?
It's her love story.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to diving into other genres. I really think that I'm going to dive more into romantic suspense, romantic mystery, because that is stuff that I enjoy. I like catching people off guard too. You know, I always try to throw a twist in there. I like unpredictability, so I try to give that to the readers.
What comes first for you? Is it the story? Do you create the story and then add the characters, or do you have characters kind of established in your brain and then you start giving them a story?
I would say I come up with the main character first. Like and then I've always been a very anal retentive person. Like I like to have the beginning, middle, and end all planned out before I actually begin writing. So yeah, I would say I have the story planned out and the characters kind of come into play as I'm getting everything together. So I would say the story comes first for me.
So you're a big outliner. So you have it all outlined.
I do.
Ahead of time, and then you sort of fill it in,
Exactly.
right? So are you able to structure yourself to say, okay, I'm going to work on the book this week and sit down every day at 9 to 5 or whatever time is available? Can you just sit down and write, or do you have to be in a certain mood or place in your head to do it?
Actually, no, I do it 3 times a week. I'm a stay-at-home mom as well, so I also have to balance getting the kids from school and doing things around the house. So having a whiteboard for me is helpful, and I write out a daily to-do list. So 3 times a week, I set aside an hour to work on my book. So it's not like I'm working hours in a day only because like I have other things that I have to do. But yeah, I definitely set aside certain times that I have to work.
You mean an hour a day or an hour just 3 times a week? How did you mean that?
I try to work every day, but a lot of times it doesn't always pan out that way for me. So, and to be honest, I usually end up going over my goal. So I usually end up working like an hour and a half, 2 hours before I have to get the kids. And then I'm working on marketing my current book. So I would say I'm working throughout the day whenever I have the opportunity.
So I forget my kids when I'm writing, and so I get in trouble that way. Have you ever done that?
No, well, I shouldn't say that. There were times when they were home from school, during the summer, I'd have them sit on the couch, watch TV, and just so I could keep an eye on them, I brought my computer out at to the kitchen table, and I'm writing, I was so close to being done with Cold Sweat. So I was like, okay, guys, just watch some TV. And you do get so caught up in the moment. Something could go on and, I don't even really realize it until they're doing something crazy.
Yeah, kitchen's on fire, When you're doing this book, do you sort of put in some subtext or meanings? Do you have a purpose, or is it pure entertainment for the reader?
I would say it's really pure entertainment. I thought that this was a really different idea. Yes, you read murder mysteries and mystery romance, but having Isabel's father reach out to her from beyond the grave, I thought that kind of gave something unique to the book because he's trying to help her solve his murder. So it's entertaining, but I also wanted it to be, different than what people might be used to reading, something new to them.
Do you have like a sort of a paranormal background or experience? Do you have sort of that to put into the book? Is that why it sort of went that way?
No, I don't have any background in that. I do have to do a lot of research because I wanted everything to feel authentic. So my publisher and I worked together. We made sure. So I did have to do some research. But I thought it would be really cool. I've watched a lot of shows like the show Medium, and I watched a little Ghost Whisperer. So I always liked, the concept of someone coming to you and trying to tell you something from beyond the grave. I thought it was interesting. So I think that's where the idea came from, and I just played with it.
How did you know when the book was going to be done? Like in your mind, because you've outlined it, right? So you've got the beginning, middle, and ending and stuff. How do you know when it's done?
Well, I think when I can't think of anything else that will make it complete, like I'm a firm believer. The idea was to make this a novel. It ended up being a novella, though, because I'm a firm believer. I don't want to just add words just for the sake of adding them. I want everything to feel really structured. And, I didn't want to put something in and then have people say, well, was that really necessary? So I do end up going back and I'll reread my work. And if I feel like I need to add something to make it more complete, I will. But it's all a matter of, I do end up adding something sometimes.
So what to you, what makes a good book?
I think balance. I think, I like to have a little bit of everything. When I'm reading a book, I like to have I like to have a little mystery. I like to have a moment in the book where my jaw drops because I wasn't expecting the author to drop this on me. I definitely like the unpredictability of certain books and certain stories. So, I like to be thrown for a loop.
So question, do you have like beta readers, or do you have some people that you like to read it to see if what they feel about it?
No, I will, I think when I was writing Cold Sweat, I did pass the idea to my husband, do you think this is a good idea? And, I think I read him a little bit of what I was writing, and he thought it was good. So he was pretty much the only one that I talked to about this. So, and then once I had it complete, I sent it to my publisher. My publisher was right on board. He loved it. And so from that point, we were working. But I would say my husband and maybe a couple of friends, but mostly I kept it on the hush hush.
Okay. So then, but your publisher's editor was working with you with it?
My publisher, he's also my editor. It's an indie publishing company, TWB Press. So
okay.
Yeah, so we worked together once I sent it to him. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Is your husband tied up in the basement right now?
I'll never tell.
Yeah.
That's the next book.
Yeah, it's like he's writing these killer books, and she, of course he says it's a good idea. He doesn't want to get, beat,
That's part of the romance.
That's part of the romance. Yes, dear, this is great. Can I eat something now, please? What do you hope someone takes away from your book? But, someone picks up Cold Sweat, takes it home, reads it, and at the end of it, what are you hoping that they get from it?
Well, I'm hoping that they'll say, ooh, I really want to read more of her, maybe have a sequel to this. I never rule anything out. So if people read this and they want more out of the character or the character's best friend who is a detective, I wouldn't be opposed to meeting those needs and maybe exploring a new storyline. So I'm interested to see, what people might want, but I'm never opposed to writing more and expanding.
That's interesting. I wonder, who was your influences in writing? And it doesn't have to be another writer. It can be anything from streaming, movies, or music, or artists, or whatever. What do you think influenced you the most?
Well, I think growing up, I was a big Nicholas Sparks fan. I read a lot of his books, and as I got older, I started reading more murder mystery, less just strictly romance. But I was really in awe of his career, and I really thought, wow, I'd love to have that kind of writing success someday. So I think he was a big influence, and also I would say, my advisor in college, Professor Simoneau, she had always believed in me. She always encouraged me. So I would say she was also a pretty big influence in me writing-wise.
What do you see yourself doing over the next 10, 20 years? Are you going to keep doing this?
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually working on something new right now. It's another romantic suspense book, and it's called Led by Her Heart, and it'll be a part 1 of 2 books. So I do have the sequel planned out too.
Wow.
Okay, so a different protagonist then, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, when you do that, when you're sitting to do a sequel now, are you going to keep some sort of record of your characters that carry over? How are you going to do that?
Well, I have, so I wrote everything out, and I know for the book that I'm working on anyway, I wrote the characters out, their background, their looks, so that I can reference it like, okay, this is how I wrote her to be, or this is how he's going to be in this book. And then the second book is not as planned out. I'll go through it more once I'm done with the first one, but I'm trying to be more meticulous with this one than my other 2 books, only because I do have a sequel planned out. So I'm writing a lot more details in my notebook.
How do you think you're going to progress after each book? Like I'm saying, do you feel like each book you do, like you've done 2 now, do you feel like it's changed you when you complete a book? Oh,
definitely. Yeah. After I wrote California Betrayal, I got more confidence, because my first book, it took me 6 years to actually complete the book before I even started sending out to agents and publishers. So it feels like at the end of each book, I've gotten more confidence, I've learned more, and I'm able to work a lot faster because of that.
So if you go from California then to Philly, in the culinary world in Philly, how did that work?
I don't know. So I just, it might sound silly. I grew up watching Boy Meets World, and I've been watching a lot of those reruns lately, and Philadelphia just stood out to me, and I said, I could make that somewhere in my book.
I see.
Did you kill people off in the book that you know?
No. I would say no one I know was inspired. My mom will beg to differ. She always teases like, oh yeah, I know I was the antagonist in your first book with the mother. And, but actually no one is really inspired. I do put myself into the book though.
Well, you have to, right?
Yeah.
I think that, a little bit of some of a writer will always be in all of the characters, but it just depends on how much. Like, do you feel like your main character, Isabel, do you think that character is a lot like you, or do you think that it's a lot like what you would like to be?
I would say she is a lot like me. Her best friend, I actually think I would love to be more like her best friend, believe it or not. I wrote her friend, Detective Olivia Morris, to be kind of feisty and no nonsense, and I kind of have her say the things that I maybe wish I could say, but I usually hold back.
So it's your escape in a way. You get to, in that character, you get to be someone that you'd like to be more like.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And this new book that I'm working on, I try to, like I said, I'm a pretty mild-mannered person. So when I'm writing, I kind of like to have those characters be a little more tough and a little more fiery, which I'm not always in that, So yeah, I definitely write them the way that I wish I could be sometimes.
So are you going to have serial killers then in your books too?
I don't know. I haven't decided.
Which one's your favorite character to write?
Well, I really loved writing Isabel. I have, Faye Collins in my first book, she was a little less like me. She was more, tough, and she was no nonsense. She would stand up and really fight for anybody. Isabel is a lot more like me. And yeah, I think that's where I definitely relate more to her than anyone else.
Ned and Cruz, the romance, the the people that she is involved with? Is it so? Is that something that is kind of part of what or you're just kind of finding different types of people for that?
I would say I think subconsciously I might have put my own love life in a way, into the books, not exactly the way that it plays out, but I have a very strong relationship with my husband. So I made these relationships, the love interest, very strong, very loving. So in effect, I guess he was inspired, or the character was inspired by him as well, the love interest. I think I did it without even realizing.
If you have them tied up, you better be.
I give them food and water.
Yeah, well, that's what, the deep meaning there, right?
That's true love right there.
That's true love. Yeah, cleanest water dish, isn't that? Where do you get your accessory characters from? Like, do you find people at a coffee shop that you see, or in a grocery store, or you're driving down the road and you see someone like, how do the filler characters come into your mind?
Honestly, I wish I had a better answer for you other than just to say they kind of just come to me as I'm developing the story. Like if I want a side character, someone that's not really, well, actually a good example would be in Cold Sweat, Isabel's mother has a boyfriend, and I kind of had him be almost like my grandfather who passed away last year, and I made him very similar to my grandfather. He was a very small part in the book, but I had him look like him. I even named him after my grandfather. My grandfather was Bill Hannon, so I made the character Bill Henson, and I gave him similar looks, similar demeanor. And so most of the time, though, I just kind of create the characters as I go.
Father gets killed by a mugger in this story. Now, when you write an evil character or a bad character or a person that's doing something bad, how do you get into that mindset of that character to make them sound real?
It's not always easy because I'm definitely not that type of person.
Well, your husband would say different, but
yeah, it's not always easy. But I think what makes it easier is that I do watch a lot of dark shows, so I can kind of like take from what I've been watching or what I'm reading. Like right now I'm reading a book by Alison Brennan, Tell No Lies. And so I kind of take inspiration, like, okay, they need to be a little more evil. They need to say this to make it sound realistic. So I think my love for Criminal Minds has helped me.
So what do you think the most difficult thing is about writing?
Honestly, I would say it's trusting your instincts. I have an idea and I'm writing it, and, a lot of times, though, I second guess myself. And so that can kind of hurt me when I'm trying to complete a book. So I have to learn to rely more on my instincts and to just trust, like, okay, you've got something really good. Now just keep going and don't go back and try to fix it.
Yeah. Well, I think that stays with a lot of writers for a long time. That never really changes. I mean, you get more comfortable with it, but I think the questioning is always something there. And research, how much do you do a lot of research to get the feeling for the setting and stuff like that, and kind of what goes on besides the main line?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I for Cold Sweat, I had to do a lot of research because I do have a scene in the book, without giving any spoilers away, where they're in a courtroom, and and the antagonist in this book is very evil, and so I had to do a lot of research, like the protocol after somebody is arrested. I needed everything to be as authentic as possible. So And my publisher and editor was really great too. Like, he guided me, if, so he would let me know, like, okay, we need to make this a little bit more authentic, so he let me know to kind of reword it and gave me guidance as to how to do that.
So what do you like best about writing? What's your favorite thing?
I think my favorite thing is being able to share the finished book with readers, hear their reaction to what I created. That's the best part, is just to be able to share it with other people.
So you're on social media quite a bit then?
I am, yes. I actually just joined Instagram. It took a while, but I actually did just join Instagram. And I also have a Facebook account, personal, and an author page as well. So I try to keep up with those regularly.
Do you have a website as well and all that? How do people find you? Like, where do they find you?
Oh, yeah. So my website is catelynswriting.com, and my Instagram is author Katelyn Marie Peterson. My Facebook page is Katelyn Marie Peterson Writer, or at California Betrayal.
Okay. Of course, we're going to put all that up on our website too, so people can find it easy, So was COVID any more difficult to write in than non-COVID for you?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you're stuck in the house. We're in the house with 5 people, so quiet is not really in the cards for me. Especially when my kids are 4 and 7. Yeah, quiet never comes easily.
No.
The 7-year-old, he have to go through, or she have to go through any, like, Zoom meetings or any Zoom classes in school that you had to deal with too?
Yeah, at the time we had to. And at the time, my 7-year-old was actually still in, like, just about to go into kindergarten. But yeah, it was definitely difficult. We had to do a lot of the video chats with his teachers. He wasn't always eager to do that. It was a struggle to get him to get on the video chat with them.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's a lot. That's what, and a lot of that interferes in your writing, right? If you have any sort of a feeling for anything, it kind of will interfere. Are you gonna take notice to reviews and stuff like that? Are you gonna be one of those that's worried about every review you get?
Well, I always worry. I mean, that's I'm a worrier by nature, but I always do like to hear what other people think. So I'm always open to hearing reviews, even if they're reviews that I may not necessarily like. I'll take, input, and I'll try to use that going forward in my next book.
Oh, absolutely not. No, if someone gives you a bad review, you hunt them down and have them killed.
That's the true crime part.
Yeah, and if you find out who they are, then you put them in your next book. And they don't just die, they suffer throughout the whole book. And at the end they die, right? I'm telling you, this is how you do it. Don't get mad, get even. Oh. Well, it's certainly a pleasure talking to you. So now, of course, your newest book, it's novella, you say, it's called Cold Sweat.
Yeah.
And the guest is the author of that book, Katelyn Marie Peterson. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was nice speaking with you.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.